Yo, Nemi gang. So today I want to talk about neutral. So this comes from a comment I received on my previous video, and I had this user by the name of X3X, crazy handle by the way. So he asked me, how do you learn a character as neutral? I want to rank up another character, but I don't know how to play said character as neutral. I also forget how to punish and dark strings while piloting a new character. Any tips? Now this comes at quite a perfect time, because I was actually thinking of making a video on neutral, more specifically on down forward one. So I'll kind of talk about both in kind of the same sense. So how do you learn a character's neutral? Now this involves a lot of things, but let's first start by describing what neutral is. So neutral can be described as a state in a match where neither of the players have an advantage, right? You're both in the neutral, nothing is happening. You are competing for control or openings or even at the wall positioning, right? So that's like a basic description of neutral. Nothing is happening. You are both looking for openings, you're both looking for control, and you're competing for positioning. So for example, in the neutral state as of last right now, so when I'm moving around, right, like this is neutral. I'm waiting for an opening, throw something out, I can whiff punish, maybe back 3-4. Okay, that means I've taken advantage of this neutral. I knock them down with back 3-4. That ends the neutral, and now I have an advantage because I have the knockdown. So I can go in with DE2, for example, or let's say I can even dash up and go low, right? So I have the advantage. I've won the neutral battle. So that's basically like a basic description of what neutral is. Now, in the context of multiple characters, right, learning the neutral of multiple characters, I want to first talk about down forward one. I feel like down forward one is the glue of what makes neutral so important in Tekken. Now it's not the only thing. Like I mentioned, you have positioning, you have movement, all that stuff, but the meat and potatoes, IMO, in Tekken is having a very strong down forward one. So the first thing you should learn when you're picking up a new character and want to learn that particular character's neutral is how their down forward one game works. Most of the characters in this game, I would say like 80% of the characters have a down forward one that's like super strong, and most of the neutral revolves around that down forward one. So let's talk about Lars, for example. So Lars has a very strong down forward one, 13 frames, -3 on block. That's like the standard down forward one in Tekken. Any character with a down forward one that's like 13 frames fast and -3 on block has a good like down forward one. Like even some that are like -1 on block, I think Nina and Anna, if I'm not mistaken. So this is what makes a down forward one very, very strong. So now, how does a down forward one work? I'm pretty sure we all know the basics of down forward one. If not, please do let me know so I can make a separate video dedicated to explaining how down forward ones work in Tekken 8. I've made videos on standing on one jabs and dig jabs, so maybe I'll make one on down forward one as well. So do let me know if you want like an in-depth guide on how down forward one works. Let's give a brief summary on down forward one neutral gameplay. So down forward one can be looked at as a tool that's meant to study your opponent. Now the reason why I say this is down forward one is a kind of move that's doesn't really give you an advantage, but gives you the freedom to still move and make pretty safe decisions afterwards, right? Think of it as something that's basically like a neutral tool, right? Neutral in Tekken 8 is 0 on block, basically, when it comes to moves, right? Like Lars is down 2, for example. It's 0 on block, meaning both of you guys can challenge and either of you can win depending on what you throw out. So down forward is close to neutral because it's only -3 on block. That's only 3 frames away from being neutral on block. You can do most of the stuff that you can do by throwing out, like you can do what a move that's 0 on block offers with a down forward one. You can still stay neutral basically. So with a down forward one, none of you have an advantage, right? Anyone can still win this neutral. So it's just meant to study what your opponent does. So for example, right, if I do down forward one, right, I'm actually on block, I can still move afterwards, I can still backdash, I can still sidestep. So depending on what the opponent throws out, I make the decision to counter that decision the next time they do that. So let's say, for example, I press down forward 1, then Fakumram here panics and does a dick jump, right? So what can I do as a last player to counter that dick jump? Because I do down forward 1, I know he's going to dick jump, so I have a bunch of options, right? So down forward 1, sidestep, arc blast, right? I can do down forward 1 into orbital because I know they did a dick jab the first time. So that's the basic principle of how down forward 1s work. They're meant to study what your opponent does after you throw out a down forward 1, then make a decision afterwards. And even some characters have down forward 1s that have extensions. In the case of Laz, he has down forward 1-1, right? So this becomes -6 on block, is a mid-high. So in a sense, or in a situation where I press down forward 1, then Fakumram or the opponent decides to jab afterwards, if I know he's going to jab, what can I do? I can do the whole string, down forward 1-1. Then I get an advantage if they mash buttons, because down forward 1 on hit is +6. So I've won that neutral game of down forward 1. Or in the case of Laz, I have the full string down forward 1-1-3. So if they mash after down forward 1, I get the whole string guaranteed. So that is the basic principle of how down forward 1s work in Tekken 8 or just Tekken in general. You are studying your opponent. So if you're jumping from character to character or trying out different characters, the most important thing in neutral, in my opinion, is know how their down forward 1 works. So for Laz, like I explained, he has down forward 1 into 1-1 extension. Maybe they're ducking the 1-1. He also has down forward 1-3, a mid as a mix-up to use for down forward 1Y, which is a high, right? If they are not mashing, you can keep your down forward 1 pressure going. If they don't mash, it means you can go low, right? Because they're respecting your down forward 1 because you do have that string. So again, this is about the mind games. You're studying what your opponent is doing and then changing up your approach to counter what they do the next time you throw out a down forward 1. Now, I did say this is only for about 80% of the character roster, right? Not every character in this game has a godlike down forward 1. So let's take Fakumram here, for example. So let me switch to Fak real quick. Okay, so Fakumram, for example, here has a down forward 1 that's 15 frames fast. It is still -3 on block, which is good, but 15 frames is way slower than the standard 13 frames down forward 1. So remember, 13 frames -3 on block or -1 on block is what you want for a down forward 1 and is what makes a down forward 1 very, very strong. But that does not apply to Fakumram. So Fakumram is kind of like a hybrid character because it does have standing 3, right? Which is 13 frames fast but -9 on block. But it has massive range. It kind of acts like a down forward 1 on its own because of Fak's archetype. He's meant to take advantage of range. They kind of gave him like a makeshift down forward 1 to complement his archetype or his range, right? So you won't use his down forward in the same sense as you would use Laz. So, like I said, the most important thing when learning a character as neutral is first learn how their down forward 1 works. So this is not a standard down forward 1. Let's talk about another example, King here as well. Okay, so if we take a look at King, King has a 14 frame fast down forward 1, which is -1 on block, which is amazing, but it's 1 frame slower than your average down forward 1. He also has an extension down forward 1-2, which is -10 on block. So it's kind of like a mix up, right? To catch people mashing buttons, can also be massively delayed. So it's kind of like Laz down forward 1-3, the mid, but this one can be delayed. So instead, King has down forward 2, which is his version of down forward 1. So 13 frames, but it is -6 on block. But the good part is that this is a counter hit confirmable string, right? So his is basically a down forward 1 that launches on counter hit. It has a high extension as a mix-up. So again, you see how every character's down forward 1 is different, right? So again, this is the most important thing about understanding a character's neutral in terms of down forward 1. Know how their down forward 1 works and how it's different from the rest of the roster, because like I said, down forward 1s are like the glue of what makes a character's neutral, right? If you don't know how a character's down forward 1 works, you are going to struggle. Let's look at one more example. Let's take a look at Leroy. Okay, so Leroy's down forward 1 is -6 on block, however it is 13 frames. So usually down forward 1s are -6 are not regarded as good down forward 1s. So characters like Devil Jin, Heihachi, and Leroy here, the down forward ones are considered weak because again -6 on block. You want something that's -3 or -1 on block because it's the closest thing that comes to being neutral on block, allowing you to move afterwards and have better options afterwards. But having this is not that great. But Leroy has down forward 1+2, which is meant to be used for chip damage whilst in hit. So his works completely different from every other character I've touched, right? Lars, Fakumram, and King. His is meant for chip, and he has a mix-up, of course, of being highs, and this is kind of like the opposite, because Lars, for example, down forward 1 was -3 on block, then down forward 1 was -6, but Leroy, down forward 1 is -6, but down forward 1+2 is -2, so you still get the movement afterwards. So with Leroy, if you want to apply your down forward 1 pressure, you add in the 1+2, then you still have the free movement and the free decision making, the free control. So understand how every single character's down forward 1 works if you're trying to learn that particular character's neutral. I hope that's as clear as day, bro. I always say my English is not the best. English is not my first language, so I feel like I yap a lot most of the times, but I hope that makes sense. So that's neutral away. Let's talk about other aspects. Sorry, that's neutral in terms of down forward 1. Let's talk about other aspects of neutral. You need to learn about whatever character you're picking if you want to get used to their neutral game or understanding how the neutral works. So going back to Lars here. So like I said, right, neutral is a state where both of you are competing for control, positioning, right, and openings. So with Lars, right, in neutral, what are you looking for here? Understand your character's ranges, basically. What are you looking for? So in terms of whiff punishment, right, at max range with Lars, you have back 3-4. Like I said earlier, you knock them down, you get Oki, right? You knock them down, you get Oki. That's basically how it works. So for Lars, always be ready to throw out that back 3-4 if needed. At close range, if they whiff anything, you have Arc Blast, one of the best whiff punishers in the game. So this is like closer, somewhere range 2, range 2.3, right? So at this range, always have that Arc Blast ready in case they throw out something, right? Remember, again, neutral, you are fighting for control, positioning, and openings. So whiff punishment is a form of openings. Back 3-4, they throw out something, back 3-4, they whiff out something again, Arc Blast, right? So openings. And in terms of control, right, know what your character has in terms of getting in to have an advantage. So stuff like a running 3, for example, this is for control because I get easy +6, but you won't get this for free because it's a running move, can be easily floated, can be easily stepped, so you won't just get it for free. So know what your character has in terms of something easy that can easily get you control. So in terms of Lars, you have DE3, as easy as that, easy +5 from like full screen, right, into Guess for Your Life. This is Lars, right? So you can go for low and you can go for mid, easy 50-50. You also have DE1, right? +1 on block, so you have control because now you are an advantage. You have won the neutral game, it's your turn. So 1-1-1 as a frame trap is the go-to after Lars gets in. You have forward 1+2 as well, so this is for an opening as well because if you knock them down, you get Oki, right? If it lands on counter hit, you get a full combo like that. So you have the control, you've won that, you got the opening, then now you have the control. So just that basic example. If you want, you can even go low from like full screen. I like doing this with the Lars, they don't see that shit coming. You also have running 1, right, for control, +4 on block, can go into silent entry mix. So these are the tools you have as Lars for control. And positioning, of course, this acts as a form of war carry. You take them to the wall. Then when you have positioning, because they have their back against the wall, So this is neutral 1 in your advantage because they have nowhere to backdash to, and you can have pressure for free with your back against the wall. That's just last, boys. Understanding the neutral with that particular character. Know what character has for close range stuff. Understand the strengths and weaknesses as well. Getting in, what moves do you have for getting in? Know which ranges the character excels at. Let's move to another character. So if you look at Raven, for example, here, Raven is kind of a different case to Lars. Raven does not have an easy DE3, for example. So with Raven, right, in the neutral, what tools do you have to compete, right? For control, for positioning, and for openings. So let's start with openings, right? What are your whiff punishment openings with Raven? You're 4, 3. If they whiff something big, of course, this is max range. You are 4, 4, right? You're 4, 2 as well. In terms of whiff punishment, of course. And then for control, Raven has the crouch dash, of course, right? You can easily go for a sweep. Now you have control because you have the Okizeme. They've knocked them down. So what follows is up to you. You have the control. You have won the neutral. That's just a very basic example. You have also outstanding 2 from crouch dash, of course, because Raven. You have stuff like 4 for whiff punishment for openings as well. Then at close range, you have stuff like down back 2, forward 2, 3, 3, 3 as well. So moves like this, guys, again, just about knowing what your character has for what particular range, right? What tools do they have for close range control, for close range openings? That includes whiff punishment at 1+2, forward 4, like I said. Then at max range for control and for openings, outstanding 2 for control. If they hit, you land on a counter hit, you get a full combo. Right, running 3 if they're not stepping for control, because you win the neutral, you get plus 4 with back turn mix for free. So just stuff like that. Knowing what tools your character has to compete in the neutral game at close range, mid range, and max range. This includes whiff punishment as well, which is a form of openings, plus frame, which is a form of control, and stuff like war carry, which is a form of positioning, because you want to take them all the way out to the wall. I hope that makes sense. I don't know how else I can dive deeper into this. Again, please tell me if I'm yapping, because to me, what I've said just makes a lot of sense. I would love some clarity, boys. Don't let me make this video in vain. Do let me know if this shit makes a lot of sense. So, and lastly, he did say he struggles at reacting to strings when ducking strings when piloting a new character. Now this is something I've experienced as well. When you pick up a new character, you fail to do a lot of things, right? For me, with Armor King, I fail to punish a lot of stuff because I'm not used to his new outstanding 3-1 punisher, right? I still go for outstanding 4, stuff like that. So this is just a case of character and familiarity, right? Not many people have the, what can I say, the luck to pilot so many characters in the game at once or play multiple characters at once. This is also something of a legacy skill. People that have come from older Tekken games, like dude, back in T5, T4, T3, we just used to mash buttons. We did not have online. We just used to play for fun. There was no stuff. We did not know about frame data, at least me, because I was hella young. We just used to pick a character and mash buttons. So stuff like the drop kick, right? Stuff like this. We've had this since I don't know how long. So we know how to deal with this, right? So if you pick up a new character, you're just not used to that character's animations, the feel of the character, the look of the character. And so it will take you a while for you to just vibe with that character. So the biggest advice I have for that is just keep playing the character. Just keep playing the character until you have a feel like you vibe with the character, you're used to what the character does. At that point now, it will be easy to start jumping from characters. And also just don't pick up a character, play that character for a few days, and then switch characters again. No, like stick with the character until you put in work, right? You have your punishers going, you have your combos going, standing punishment. Because even right now with Armor King, I'm not even doing my back 1-2 punishers. For like 12 frames, I'm rarely using back 1-2. I'm only using 2-1 because he's too new to the game and I'm still not used to his overall animations. Just him being a new character in Tekken 8. So that's the advice I have. So anyway, boys, I hope this video has made a bunch of sense. Again, if you want me to make a video specifically for down forward 1, please do let me know. It's a huge aspect of neutral in Tekken 8. And if you don't know how it works, the mentality behind down forward 1s, you will not find yourself winning the neutral battle in this game. It's going to be a hella struggle. So please, please, please do let me know if you do want that down forward 1 video. Anyway, boys, thank you so much as usual for taking the time to watch this video. XEX, I hope I answered your question. And hopefully this helps you in your journey to pick up some more characters in the game. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to your boy, help me get to 9K, boys, before the year runs out. Please support your boy. It'd be wild out here. Thank you, boys, so much. And as usual, may the Predator be ever in your favor. GG.